Hello, this is the Dove Lady again. And you're seeing on my screen, you're seeing a friend of mine named Gerald Bringle. I visited him back in 2012, and we walked all over these mountains full of boulders in Arizona, in Baghdad, Arizona. Now, I'm going to show you a little more of him than just his back. But he was always ahead of me. He could walk those hills like a billy goat. I mean, it's really something. And he was showing me all of these hieroglyphs on the rocks. He knew where a lot of them were. Anyway, I'm just going to show you him there pointing to some of them. See if I can get my picture just a little bigger. There. He's pointing to some of them there. And there's some more. Well, that's the same place, I believe. Yep. I had a lot of fun walking around those hills, crawling and all that. There's it a little closer up, some of the things. They don't look like anything to me, but if you study this sort of thing, you might know what some of this is, because often these things are repeated in other parts of the country, some of the same symbols. So Gerald often leads people to some of these areas that want to see them. There were so many beautiful sights like this one. Like, look at that rock. It just looks so funny up there. There's some more writing on rocks. I just loved this country. I got a little tired, and he was building these little things with stones because he was going to lead some people around in a day or two, and he wanted to have his path all marked with these little stones built up. And so he was doing that quite a lot, stacking stones together. I'm just going to show you some of the pretty kind of things that we saw that I took pictures of. He has taken so many thousands, probably 1,000,000 at least, pictures of these places just like this. And places he calls dimensional doorways. And I'll tell you why. It is a dimensional doorway for, guess what? Bigfoot. Gerald has met Bigfoot. He tells me he has, and I believe him. He said that Bigfoot likes blue things, pretty shiny blue things. So I had a little glass blue thing that I wanted to give to Bigfoot. Didn't think I would actually meet him or one of them, but I wanted to leave it somewhere where maybe they would find it. Some of those cactus will really stick to you really bad if you get up too close to them. I think I'll show you one of those that's like that. But these are the sugar cactus. That's one of his favorite kind of cactus to take pictures of. And the rocks are just so strange. I don't know why, but I just love rocks. Big ones, small ones, mysteriously shaped ones. All kinds of rocks. Everybody in my family, we're rock hounds. We all have rocks that we keep in our yard and in our homes. And sometimes there would just be some old gnarly trees that looked really interesting. Okay, see that seashell? That seashell, Gerald picked it up and said that Bigfoot laid it there for me because I gave him the pretty blue marble thing. Now, at first I didn't believe him. I thought maybe he did it himself, But I've come to believe that no, he was telling the truth. But that's up to any individual to decide whether they believe someone or not. It depends on how much you know that person. And, well, I've gotten to know that he is so fascinated with these hills and with the things he researches that he wouldn't believe in something that he was fooling himself about. I mean, who would do that? And then spend all this time taking pictures and having experiences. And he's had some with Bigfoot. Now, there's a lot of people out there who think, oh, that's silly. They don't believe in something like Bigfoot. I wanted to crawl up into that little spot, but it was a little too high for me to get up in there. There was one rock, I'll show it to you when he gets to it, that I kind of camped out under while he made his little rock piles. And then there was another rock that he said this is a healing rock that the ancient Indians that lived in this area had for a place where they received healing. So, while I was waiting on him to mark the trail for the group he was going to be taking up there, I was just rested on this healing rock. I was laying on it, and the sun shining in my face. It was so pleasant just to rest and to lay back. It kind of was a good leaning rock for laying you weren't laying flat down, you were kind of propped a little bit. And of course, I took orb pictures, I had my piece of glass where I could get orbs. And there's one I got around Gerald. So anyway, I'm laying on this healing rock. And when Gerald comes back, because he went all the way up to where the dimensional doorway is. That's where he says that Bigfoot lives in another dimension, and he passes out of one into another through a dimensional doorway, and it's just a place in the rocks that looks just like a big old door. I might have a picture of that in this. I hope I do. But anyway. Now, when I laid on that healing rock, after I got up from there, walking uphill was like walking straight. It was no problem to lift my body up a steep incline. It was like, wow, what has happened to me? I hope this lasts. It didn't last, but it lasted, and I went on up to the dimensional doorway. I said, I can make it. I know I can now, because gosh, walking uphill is a breeze. Now, that's the only time that ever happened to me, and I guess you might say it lasted about 45 minutes or so. And we made it up to the dimensional doorway. I mean, Gerald takes pictures. He's one interesting fellow. He even spent a night in the King's Chamber in the Pyramid of Giza and had quite a wild experience there. And that is for another video. Actually, I could put a video of him talking about that. I'll put it in the description bar. And Gerald's always finding snakes and he picks them up, usually with a stick though. And that's him leading a group of people up there. And, I was thinking people always are dreaming about snakes and they're scared of snakes. So in the dream, they see the snake as like something bad. But not to think that way. The snake is very precious symbol of God. And I had a dream about a snake one time. And it scared me. So I know that sometimes we interpret our own dreams fearfully because if something happens that we're afraid of, then we give it a bad interpretation. I also had a dream about a tidal wave one time. And it was associated with another repetitive dream that I kept having. I kept seeing myself in my schoolroom of my senior class. And I was standing at the back of the room thinking, why am I going to school again? I've already graduated years ago. Why am I still back in school? And then I would say, well, I'm just going to leave and walk home because I used to could walk to my house from the school. And I would go to walk home and I would never be able to find my way home. But I kept having this dream repeat in this fashion, being in that schoolroom, wondering why I was there. Over and over I had that dream. Then one night, I dreamed it again, and it wasn't just me in the back of the classroom. There was a gentleman, too. And I said, what are we doing here? We've already graduated. We're a lot older than these kids. What are we doing back in school? So we go outside. This time I didn't try to walk home, but I saw this huge tidal wave, taller than the tallest building in Stamps, Arkansas, where I lived. And I thought, oh, a tidal wave. It's going to demolish us all. But you know what? It hit, and it was nothing but bubbles, and we could walk around and breathe in those bubbles. It was fun. It didn't do any harm. It kind of messed a few little things up, books and things and chairs, and people's belongings were scattered in funny places. But that ended that dream from coming back again. After that, it didn't repeat anymore. Now, there's a snake in the Bible, in the Garden of Eden. It's supposed to be the devil, But I think that snake was wise. I mean, he did want them to know good and bad. Because if you don't know the bad, you don't know what the good really is, because you have nothing to compare it to. And you don't know your own character, whether you're going to be good or bad. I mean, if you never knew pain, you wouldn't know what health was. And sometimes we learn a lot through pain. I just recently did. I woke up because of pain. And my life has changed. But I was thinking about how in that story of Adam and Eve, after that they did eat the forbidden fruit, then they were calling things good and bad. And they thought it was bad that they were naked and they heard God coming in the garden. And they thought, ooh, we better put some clothes on. They didn't have clothes back then, but they put leaves or something over themselves. And that scripture has been changed according to the Mandela effect. Now, in the King James Version, what it says there about Adam and Eve, when they fled the garden, it says, and the man and his wife fled the garden, and they were naked and not ashamed of being naked, and called them the man and his wife. Well, when did they get married? Who married them? Anyway, that's what the Mandela effect does. It changes the words in the King James Version of the Bible. And you think, oh, well, my memory is wrong. No, your memory's right. There's another thing about that snake that changed that's a Mandela effect. And I'll tell you what it is. After that the snake deceived them, God cursed the snake, and he said that the snake would bruise the heel of the man, but man would crush the head of the snake. Doesn't say that anymore. Now it says man would crush the heel of man would crush the head of the snake, and the snake would crush, wait a minute, I'm saying that wrong. Bruise. It says the man would bruise the head of the snake, and the snake would bruise the heel of the man. Both are bruised instead of one being bruised and one being crushed. And I remember it said man would crush the head of the snake. I mean, one time there was a snake in my yard, and a man saw me trying to, kill it because it was in my yard, and he stopped and helped me, and he said, we must crush the head of the snake. The Bible says to. So, a lot of people get things wrong. They don't understand the meanings of some of these stories that are told in the Bible. And I think of it like this. We aren't God realized yet. If we were, we would call all things good. Anything that happened and any person that comes into our life, we would call them good and not bad. But what do? We reenact the same thing Adam and Eve did. We call some things good and some things bad, and they will become how we call them. I think I remember that Adam was told that he could name the animals. Well, when you name something, you give it a limitation. That's why when I talk to my higher self, and I always ask, what is your name? What is your name? Never do I get a name. It's always, one time it was, just think of me as someone who loves you. So if you want to ask who it is, I'll say, are you someone who loves me? And then I'll get the answer, yes. So, if you call that a name, that was our agreement. Because sometimes when I'm talking to Spirit, I'm talking to my little scared self. My scared little, I always know when it's that because it's always bad advice I get. When it's my higher self, it's always good. It's always loving. Yeah, we walked all over those hills, and I think Bigfoot might be there sometimes. He would have a good way of seeing anyone. Nobody could sneak up on him because he would be up high and he could see you coming. I took pictures of Gerald when he would climb up some high place and I would stay below. Now there he is sitting on top of a rock. And he still climbs those hills today. And he's in his 80s, I believe. He'll be watching this, so he'll probably tell me how old he is. Men aren't usually ashamed to say their age. It's women who get little egos about them. But I'm not. I'm 72 years old. I like it that I'm 72 years old. I think that's a wonderful number. Look at this beautiful, colorful thing I got in this. It's like an orb, but not like an orb, but there it is. And there's Gerald up there. And there he is up there. He's a very special person. I hope he knows how special he is. I think he does. I don't know what he's up to these days, but he used to do work with Lee lines or something like that. Something about having to be in certain places at certain times. For the grid work, that's it. He did and probably still does what he calls grid work. I never quite understood what grid work actually was. But some of you I'm talking to probably do know. See, there he is up high on a place, and he's taking pictures as usual. He's the only one I know that probably takes more pictures than I do. I mean, traveling with him was a pure delight because he would stop his car and get out and take pictures, which is something I like to do when I'm with, like, some of my family members, but they won't stop the car and let me take a picture. So it was real fun. Traveling around Arizona is a beautiful state. Very beautiful, rocky hills with boulders and all kinds of things. Cactus everywhere. Now this area, he said this was a crystal, fossilized. This used to be a huge crystal, he said. Anyway, that's a good place where I like to be, right there on that huge crystal. That's him standing on it. And I got the sun right above his head. And I got all those pretty things there. And I got him to sit down. I said, now hold your hand this way and look that way. And it was good to do that for me. Soon I'm going to have some people in my life that will do that sort of thing with me, because I am going to be moving to Oregon at the end of June. And you know what I'm going to do? These two women, Sandra Carpenter and Carol Harris, one or both of them, I think both of them probably, will fly here, and we're going to rent an RV, and we're going to make a tour of me moving. Oh, that was, don't want to play that. That was a video. But we're going to make a tour, and I'm going to sell some of my creations on the tour if we attract people. That's one reason I'm going to be telling you a lot about my going to Oregon, because they have a startup YouTube channel. They don't have a lot of videos on it yet, but we're going to have a lot on it, especially when I get there. And we're going to make videos, and they call themselves Awakened Comedy. And these two women, they're just like, their thoughts are my thoughts. It's when I talk to Carol, it's like, wow, everything I think, you also think. Just exactly like I think it. Like we're two peas in a pod or something. Anyway, so they're fixing up a little trailer for me to live in. And the funny thing is, when I kind of didn't really think that I was going to have to move, but I've been acting so strange to my daughter that she thought, Mother is going crazy. And I said, no, I woke up. I'm not going crazy. Quite the opposite. I'm coming sane. But when you become sane, you believe things like in real Bigfoots and other things as well. Things that are just as hard to imagine as anyone trying to imagine how Jonah could live in the belly of a whale for 3 days. Now, what I believe now is way stranger than that. I think that's the rock that I spent some time under in the shade, resting. And there was an old chair out there. That's the little blue thing I left there for Bigfoot. It's a little blue piece of glass. That's it real close up, but it's not as big as it looks there. That's just a real close up of it. So I will be going to Oregon, and I will be making videos. It'll take us 11 days the way they want to tour. And I've never been on a tour before, and I've never been the subject of a tour, but they're going to be interviewing me on the tour. We're going to be making videos. I'll be posting them to my channel, and then I'll be posting some to their channel. They will be, that I might be in some of them. But they're gonna interview all kinds of people. I'm just one of the first ones because, like, they're new at this. We're just learning the ropes. Well, that is a video. That is one. This says one for all and all for one. Does this sound like socialism? Remember on the day of Pentecost how they made all things common and all the needs of the people were met because of that? This is real similar to what Jesus said. As you have done unto the least of these, you have done also unto me, and as you have not done unto the least of these, you have also not done unto me. That is something I was trying to get my sisters, when I visit them, to understand. We shouldn't, because Trump wants us to hate refugees and the Spanish people and the Muslims, and don't believe it, because that is not how Jesus wants us to act. Not at all. Now, I think I've used up all my time on this. And this is the Dove Lady. I'm just going to be talking to you now and then about all kinds of things. And I'm going to end this now because I'm almost at 27 minutes. So, this is the Dove Lady, over and out for now. Bye-bye.